Hi, everybody. Of course, you've all heard about the announcement of a ceasefire agreement in Gaza. There's a lot that we don't know. We haven't seen a text yet of it, but all indications are that it is fundamentally the same agreement that was put on the table by Biden in May, allegedly an Israeli plan that Hamas accepted then. It was then in June adopted with U.S. support by the Security Council, and Hamas again formally accepted it in early July. And now, after nobody knows how many tens of thousands of people have died in Gaza, and many of the Israeli prisoners also have been killed by the Israelis, among others. Now there's finally an agreement, and the irony is that it seems that Donald Trump is the one who can take the credit
Oh
for
God.
this
Huh.
agreement. Um, I
Mm.
and the this has been widely reported in the Israeli press, by the way, not so much in the U.S. press. But I love this headline that was in the Times of Israel, which is a kind of centrist Israeli English language newspaper aimed at the diaspora. It says Arab officials, Trump envoy swayed Netanyahu more in one meeting than Biden did all year.
Mm.
Uh,
God.
there's a long article that was just posted by
They should
ProPublica.
say 15 months. But anyways, who's
Yeah,
counting?
there's a long article that was just posted by ProPublica, investigative journalist outfit, that just details how feckless the Biden administration had been in
Mm.
any pressure whatsoever again on the Israelis to agree. And again, some of you have probably followed the story. Trump had been demanding a ceasefire since for before his inauguration, which is next week, and claiming that all hell will break loose if there's not. And of course, in effect, this was aimed at the Israelis, in a meaningful way because Hamas had already agreed, and his envoy apparently went to Doha and participated in some of the talks, and then flew to Israel and read Netanyahu the riot act, as Israeli press is reporting, and they caved in to agree with what had already been settled in May. Um, Before Netanyahu piled on additional demands on that and sort of killed that agreement. Basically, everything I've read says, and even Biden, by the way, in his press conference today, when he was, attempting to take some credit for this, basically let it out that this was the agreement that he had shepherded through in May, uh,
Mm.
and uh, and without having any effect on the Israelis in terms of agreeing. So the Israeli right wing is furious at this, and Israel Hayom, which is the newspaper founded by the pro Netanyahu newspaper, Likud newspaper, founded by Dorchester boy Sheldon Adelson's money and now his widow's money, uh, had a headline, their main headline: "Why is Trump pushing Israel toward a bad deal?" And our own uh, Israeli spokesperson in the Boston Globe, Jeff Jacoby, was also mourning. His headline was "The Terrible Deja Vu of an Israel-Hamas Hostage Deal." So uh, it's pretty stunning. Now, uh, of course, Blinken and Biden up until now have been gaslighting the idea that it's Hamas that had been standing in the way of an agreement. And of course, anyone who's been following this knows that that's a lie, but that was the convenient lie to cover up the Biden administration's failure to put any pressure on Israel. Uh, and what 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 Trump's intervention means for the future is very hard to know, except that we all know Trump in his first administration was very, very pro-Israel. And of course, there are lots of pro-Israel people among his designated appointees in his incoming administration. But the fact is, Trump is not wedded to Zionism in the way that Biden and Blinken were. For him, it was transactional. And as far as transactions go, Trump doesn't need Israel and its supporters in this administration. This is his last time running for public office. He doesn't have to raise any money anymore. And it's anybody's guess what his policy will be. And so, we can have some hope that maybe in his sort of deal-making mode, he will continue to pressure the Israelis to do something meaningful beyond this ceasefire. Now, of course, this ceasefire, as the previous one that was on the table, has three phases. That the first two going for 6 weeks each. And, judging from Israel's past behavior, we can definitely wonder whether or not they will abide by this agreement or find a way to get around it. And already some Israeli press reports are, and we don't know if this is true, frankly, I doubt it, are saying that Trump has given them a wink on the side that if they agree to this, they can resume the war at a later date with his approval. Whereas the actual disagreement after the second phase is a permanent end to Israeli attack on Gaza and a withdrawal of Israel from all of Gaza. So we'll have to see how it develops, and whether or not Israel sticks to it. It certainly won't, unless the Trump administration is putting considerable pressure on them. That's their track record. They've broken the ceasefire agreement with Lebanon on hundreds of occasions already without any consequence, because the U.S. is the arbiter of who's sticking to that agreement or not. The other aspect of this that's not so much emphasized is that the resistance in Gaza has continued undiminished. And in fact, just a couple of days ago, 5 Israeli soldiers and 10 were severely wounded. 5 were killed and 10 severely wounded in a Hamas operation in Bet Hanun, which is the northern end of Gaza that Israel has supposedly occupied since the early days of its invasion. And Blinken himself acknowledged in his press conference the other day that Hamas, in fact, had replaced all its losses by new recruits in the Gaza Strip. So the Israelis are understanding, and certainly the Israeli public is understanding that that there's no definitive military victory to this battle, just a continuing losing of casualties. The Israelis have lost something like 500 soldiers on the ground that they've acknowledged, and many, 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 many more wounded. So there's no definitive military victory, as Hamas and Israel supporters have been claiming. And so, maybe they will follow it. And of course, Netanyahu is under a lot of pressure inside Israel from the family of the prisoners in Gaza. And opinion polls show that a large majority of Israelis are now, this is a new thing, are now willing to support an agreement to get the hostages out and stop the war, something like 60-some percent. So, so the Israeli public has had enough of this war, apparently, also. So other news, some of you may have seen 60 Minutes had a surprisingly good segment on its Sunday show last Sunday, which of course has Israel and its supporters up in arms. They actually interviewed several people from the State Department who had resigned over the failure to hold Israel accountable, and showed footage of Israel's criminal and genocidal attacks on Gaza. So you can find that online. It's quite a departure. Of course, the pro-Israel people are claiming that this was one-sided, blah, blah. But of course, 60 Minutes has had many, many reports about the current violence in Gaza, almost exclusively from the Israeli point of view. So this is a departure. for them, and somewhat meaningful. I think they have stuck to their guns in the face of the criticism of their report. And in other news, earlier, I think late last week, the UN had offered to send an investigative team to look into Israel's charges of sexual violence on October 7th, but Israel refused to allow them entry into Israel because they also wanted to investigate the allegations of sexual violence committed by Israeli soldiers, particularly against Palestinian prisoners. So Israel refused to let them in. And of course, you may know that, there were news reports last week that there is still to this day not a single confirmed report of rape that the Israeli government can cite. There may well have been, but certainly not on the scale that they were alleging in the beginning. And finally, the resistance in Yemen, the Houthis, as we call them, which has been effectively blockading the Red Sea from all shipping, has announced that when the ceasefire goes into effect, travel through the Red Sea will be unimpeded. Because that's what they said all along, that they would stop their attacks when there was a ceasefire. The ceasefire, by the way, is scheduled to go into effect on Sunday, if all goes well. And apparently, Israel is stepping up its bombing, today and before that to kill as many Palestinians as possible before the ceasefire goes into effect. So that's all. That's all I have. We could talk a lot more about the details, but those are the main points.
Thanks, Jeff. That's a great report. And I'm going to take the privilege of the first question. I actually have two, and one is really to the group. This is a task. MAPPA needs to come out with a statement about this development. Olivia, our intern who specializes in graphics, has given us a skeleton, and she put some old words in it. So I need somebody on this call to synthesize. These statements aren't too long, 200 words, something in that range, to the really high points. So if Jeff, I would hate to give you one more task to do. I know you do a great job if you'd be in position to do that, or if someone else would want to take that on to pull that together, absolutely by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, but I'll take it by 8 p.m. tonight if you do it. We'll post it.
I don't think I can do it tonight, Cole. But by the way, a reporter for
Why not just immediately? Sorry.
A reporter for WBZ contacted the New England Network for Palestine that MAPPA is a member of, and I called him back, and he called me and is willing to do an interview tomorrow. And I definitely think we should have a statement by then, but I'm not sure what I can do tonight.
All right. So if someone could work on that tonight and try to synthesize the matter based on Jeff's presentation, that would be very much appreciated. Let me know if you can take that on. I actually have a substantive question myself too. And then Jeff, if
I'll definitely chime in. If someone starts the ball rolling, that'll be helpful, and I'll respond.
Yeah. And then we can send a more elaborated version tomorrow with more time to work on it. But I want to get something out pretty quick. I mean, my biggest takeaways, just to jump in, is that phase 2 is really important. Phase 2 is when the Israeli army withdraws from Gaza. Phase 2 is not at all guaranteed. Phase 2 is supposed to be supposed to be negotiated during phase 1. But if they don't reach agreement on phase 2 may not happen. So in other words, they may get a hostage exchange for a while and then go back to war. But my question to you, Jeff, is, has Israel accepted this? Has the Security Council acted? And is not Netanyahu's coalition going to fall if he pushes this through?
As far as I'm aware, their negotiators definitely agreed to it, but it hasn't been ratified yet by Netanyahu's cabinet. And of course, the whole cabinet is very right wing, but the extreme right wing of the cabinet, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, have been adamantly opposed to any agreement to end the war, and have promised to vote against it. But it looks like Netanyahu will have a majority in the cabinet, and one of the main opposition parties has promised that if there's a vote of no confidence in Netanyahu, that where the far right parties leave, that the more centrist party will support him in the Knesset and keep the government in power. So I think it's pretty likely that this will be ratified. It's it would be very blatant if after all the news reports, if Israel sort of backs out at this point. Now they may try to cheat on it, and all kinds of things, are possible, but I think this agreement is going to be signed officially, ratified officially.
Great, thank you. Karishma.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Cole. So I am optimistic, cautiously, but I don't have a lot of hope. And also, I'm sorry, these are opinions, so please take it with a grain of salt. One is, given Netanyahu's and Smotrich's and Ben-Gvir's stances, that this is just to help Biden look good as he's heading out the door, but will not be meaningful. They have all intents and purposes to take over Gaza. They have already formed military bases, corridors. There's no way they're going to move out of that position. So this is one thing. The second is, I wonder if the $8 billion that Biden has promised Israel was part of the reason that they even allowed some face-saving grace in his last week. So I always wonder. The second thing I wanted to say to Jeff's comment about whether Trump is going to just not be ideological and therefore not support Netanyahu or Israel. If you look at his first 4 years, it was carte blanche in the settlements in West Bank and mistreatment of the people of Gaza. So I don't see how, even if Donald Trump is just a one-term president, Jared Kushner is a very good friend of Netanyahu. Whenever Netanyahu was visiting America, he used to stay in New Jersey in Jared Kushner's house. They're very close friends. I will not be surprised if there is going to be a lot of support from the Trump administration for whatever Netanyahu has planned over the next years. So thank you.
So you may be right, but just a few points. In his first administration, he was expecting to run again and needed the money and the political support that was promised by the Adelsons in particular. He got that. That's in the bank this time, and he's not going to run again. And by the way, Jared Kushner and Trump's daughter, Ivanka, have totally withdrawn from, political activity and are not part of Trump's new team coming in. So, I don't think you can count on anything, but I think we know that Trump is not a true believer in anything except Trump, unlike Blinken and Biden. And, maybe he'll surprise us.
Can I just make one other comment? So thank you, Jeff. Thank you for allowing also to accept that the comment. Christians United for Israel want the second Messiah, the second coming of the Messiah. So they have their own plans. The Smotrich and Ben-Gvir have their own plans about Eretz Israel. So let's keep an eye on it. I want us to be optimistic because for the sake of the people who will survive another day. But the grand plans do not seem conducive to a need for a ceasefire. But again, it's just an opinion, speculation, hypothetical. So I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, did you raise your hand before?
I did, but my dogs are barking, so I.
We cannot hear your dogs, but okay. If you want to,
I'll just put it in the chat.
All right, Louise.
Oh, I just was thinking about the statement that you were talking about getting together by tomorrow morning. Is this something that you want to get out to the press? I mean, we have a good relationship, especially with WGBH, mostly with the radio, but also with this new, a new department that they have.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. Right now, we need somebody to write the statement before we can. Question.
Okay.
But once we have a statement, we can definitely send it to the press.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So whenever it's ready, I mean, I would be glad to help send it out, and
Yep.
we do have people to send to.
Great, thank you. Abby,
Jeff, what leverage does Trump have over Netanyahu? What would make Netanyahu agree to this? I'm skeptical, both at phase 1 and phase 2. I don't think the Israelis are going to come through, but what leverage does he have over them?
By the way, phase 1 involves Israel withdrawing from most of the Netzarim Strip that cuts Gaza in half and allowing people to return to the north of Gaza. So if they follow through all these steps, it won't be so easy for Israel to sort of blatantly overthrow this thing. And so, we'll see. People in Gaza are celebrating, by the way, now, and hopeful. I don't know what Trump has threatened or what his envoys have threatened in private, but apparently the Israelis took it pretty seriously, and I think they understand also that Trump, whatever for all of his faults, is not a true believer in Zionism like Biden and Blinken are. But so I think they're worried. Some of you may have seen that sometime last week, Trump reposted a long interview with Jeffrey Sachs that was basically attacking, Israel's control over U.S. policy and Netanyahu in particular. Trump sent it out, and of course, that caused tremors throughout the pro-Israel universe. And again, we don't know how serious that is and what that meant, but there's some indication that we can't assume that Trump 2 will be a replay of Trump 1. We don't know.
Zarina.
Yes, I have two quick questions. One is, do you know what the rest of Western Asia, especially Iran, any thoughts of what they're thinking? And second is, I wonder what Trump said to Obama at the Carter funeral service. Any thoughts?
I don't know the second one. There were all kinds of memes on Twitter about that. God only knows. I haven't read any response yet from other countries in the Middle East, so I don't know. Maybe there has been. I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to that. Obviously, other than the Houthis who are celebrating it. So I assume, if this agreement holds, that the whole Middle East will breathe a sigh of relief. I mean, not least the autocratic rulers in the Gulf that are U.S. allies that are somewhat nervous about public opinion in their own countries. They don't have democracies, but they, do have to worry a little bit about the strong pro-Palestinian feelings of their populations, and that's in Saudi Arabia and Egypt and elsewhere. So, let's hope that this, this holds. We can't know. We need to be vigilant, obviously, and but even if it's temporary, which is possible, certainly the Palestinians in Gaza need a breather and will get a breather out of this. And we can only,
And
wish them
I,
well.
I guess I just want to know real quick also, would the UN have any help with keeping the ceasefire, or is that?
I don't know what mechanisms there will be to monitor this. The UN Security Council adopted this peace plan in June, and the Security Council, in effect, has coercive powers. The U.S. would not easily allow that, but we'll have to wait and see. We just don't know how it's going to play out. But even in the first phase, which I think the Israelis will probably abide by, it means they will not be bombing Gaza and will partially withdraw, supposedly from the population centers, to the degree there are any surviving population centers in Gaza. So, we need to put pressure on our government as best we can to have them hold Israel accountable on this. And if Biden and Blinken wouldn't do it, maybe Trump will. I don't rule that out.
Thanks. Susan Mirsky.
So two questions. One, within the ceasefire agreement, is there anything stated about humanitarian supplies? And and then the other is, would would this how would this affect the UNRWA funding that Israel has said that they will stop UNRWA within Israel? And I guess another one is, how will this affect the bill about censuring the ICJ
ICC, yeah.
ruling? So
So,
those.
so the again, I haven't seen that. As far as I know, there hasn't been an official release of a text. But again, given that everybody is describing it and saying it's like the agreement in May, phase one includes Israel allowing 600 trucks of supplies a day into Gaza, including North Gaza, which they have cut off and been holding under siege. So that's a good thing. Phase three, if it ever happens, is begins a massive reconstruction of Gaza by the international community. Of course, all of that has to be worked. Phase three, if it happens, won't happen for 12 weeks, 3 months from now. So there's plenty that can happen between now and then.
Thank you. Faye.
Oh, I heard somewhere that there are 3 countries that are going to be monitoring the ceasefire. One of them is the United States. The other one is Qatar, and I can't remember the third
Egypt.
one.
Egypt is the third one.
Which one?
Egypt. The third one.
Egypt.
Still making a fight.
Egypt. Okay. Is there any way to add more countries to it? Because if the United
I don't know. I don't know.
States is
Again,
monitoring,
it would be kind of a
that's a
sign of
joke.
good faith
Yeah.
if the Security Council takes it on to ratify this agreement. That would be important because then there, could be consequences if it's violated. And obviously, if anyone's going to violate it, it's going to be Israel. So, all we can do is wait and hope right now.